Alright, you guys, another Monday, another video, and this one is going to be a little bit more like narration-y, where I'm going to be talking you through my process, because I am doing something pretty different than my usual in this sketchbook spread, and I am actually collaging. So I was inspired by Art with M here on YouTube, and I really wanted to try it myself. I was into drawing these sardines. I have a sticker of a sardine on my Etsy shop if you'd like to check it out, and I just really wanted to do like a tin of sardines. I thought that would be fun. It was a little complicated, maybe a bit off more than I could chew, but at the same time, I'm pretty stoked with the results, and I think you guys will too. So, if a pretty chill, laid-back video of me just talking through my process of collaging sounds like something you would enjoy, I'm Rory Fluent. Feel free to call me Rory if you're new around here. Hi, hello, how are you? Let me know in the comments down below. I like to create dope art content and hopefully curate a chill atmosphere. And if you're not new around here, what is up, my dudes? Let's get into this video. Oh my god, I am just like so excited to talk to you guys about this process. So as you can see here, I started with a sketch of kind of like how I would normally try to approach drawing or depicting sardines in a can, and I was sort of trying to think about the different angles that I could look at the can from. I was also looking at lots of references, making sure that it actually like looked like a sardine can and worked like a sardine can. And yeah, I was just kind of trying to make sure that it was weird. It was like I was tricking my brain into thinking in these individual pieces rather than as a whole. And so I was trying to look at what I was drawing and go, okay, how can I represent this in the simplest form? For example, like the way the metal is curling on the tin as it comes back, or like is peeled back. That was something that was kind of a little hard. I had to do some mental gymnastics to figure out how to properly depict that in a way that I thought was like cool and actually like looked the way that it was supposed to and looked like it would function. So this was definitely very different than just sort of going in and painting or starting to render something, because I wasn't even using paint in the way that I normally would. It was very different to take these pieces and be cutting them out from pieces of paper. So I was really stumped on the colors. I wanted to make sure that I had a clear plan and idea of what I wanted the colors to look like before I started painting on these different pieces of paper and figuring out what I wanted to do. So having a plan was like a huge part of my success, if you want to call it. I mean, I feel like it was a success. Looking at it right now, I am realizing that I totally forget to add the little like turn clip for the, like, I see it at the far left. Yeah, it would be far left for you guys. On the far left, that little clip that you use to like peel the tin back. I don't know, I don't eat sardines. I just thought they looked cool, but I did not add that in the final thing. I got distracted, and it's been weeks since I made this thing, and I'm looking at it right now and I'm like, holy shit, I did not do that. But anyways, I found that color coding was really helpful for me, and it wasn't necessarily like I had to stick to this plan or it was set in stone or anything, but I was trying really hard to give myself some structure so that I could experiment in a productive way. So like I said, I wasn't holding myself to anything, but I wanted to have an idea of what I was doing before starting. So I guess in a way it was kind of like a working thumbnail, similar to what you would do for a big project. You know, you go through iterations and then decide on a final thumbnail, and it's sort of like the bare bones of what you're gonna create. And this is sort of like the bare bones, the structure, the blueprint, if you will, for what I was gonna try and cut out and piece together and collage. And there are so many moving parts to collaging. Very different than painting in that respect. Like, and painting, especially with like acrylics, where you can sort of go over what you've done over and over again until you kind of get the vibe or the brush strokes that you want or whatever it is. This is very one and done. Now, that isn't to say, obviously, that I couldn't make more paper or anything like that, but a lot of time goes into cutting out the pieces, laying them down properly, gluing them, and making sure that all the pieces fit together in the way that you are trying to make them look. So it was really important for me to start with a plan and really take my time and think through what I wanted, because I really didn't want too much of the same color interacting with itself. I wanted to make sure that from far away it could read is what I wanted it to be. And so what I mean by that is, like, the easiest example is like the inside of the tin versus the outside of the tin, right? I didn't want to make them the same color or even like close to the same color, because not only did I want that contrast, but I also wanted them to be able to be read as separate things, if that makes sense, right? So like if I was painting the inside, maybe I would make it darker and sort of an opposing color to the outside. So maybe I would make it a dark red. Well, here I decided to actually make it a pale purple, because the outside I decided to be dark green with texture, and the inside is pale purple with no texture, so that hopefully it's readable. So you'll kind of see what I mean as I develop and continue to sort of go through this process. One of the other things that helped so much, and again, I credit Art with M with this, because this is a sort of tip that they share in their video that I adored, was taking like a translucent paper. I had marker paper, so I just used it to lay over my piece and cut out the different shapes that I needed. And what's really cool about this is that you can use these pieces as templates to make sure that everything is the proper size before you start cutting your actual paper, which means there's less paper wasted, and it really streamlined the process, so I didn't have to cut different shapes out and just hope that they would work together. I could actually lay out these pieces of translucent paper and make sure that they are the proper size that I've depicted in my sketchbook, because I decided that I was going to render this at the same size as what I sketched it, or roughly the same size anyways. Also, you guys will kind of start to see the different pieces of paper that I had that I painted. I used multiple mediums, starting first with watercolors, and then sort of, I started by building translucent layers and then decided that I liked the thicker, heavy body mediums first. Like, I guess the acrylics and things, they just gave off the texture that I was looking for, because that's one of those really unique things to collage, I feel, is the way that different textures can interact with each other. It just looks so cool. Like, you see it a lot in children's books, I feel, and it gives this very homey, almost simplistic vibe that I love. You can see some of the pieces of paper on the side and what I was cutting out. I did not get each of these pieces on the first try. I think the only one that I really did that with was the base, and that's because I had like the best template for it. So currently I'm trying to figure out how this sort of folded piece of metal is going to look and interact with the other pieces, and I'm trying to decide if the textures are correct, and you'll kind of notice it's something I'm going to talk about, but I do actually go in with acrylic wash and just normal acrylics, and I add textures to the different little sardines and even the oh my god, even the tin and everything like that. So it's not like just because the textures that I'm looking at now are here, that doesn't mean that I have to keep them that way. I can kind of edit them with acrylics like I would a normal painting or something like that. But there is definitely something a lot more permanent about the shape and structure of what you're collaging, because you really can't alter that, not unless you're bringing it into Photoshop and like photoshopping pieces of collage and then working it in and editing it that way. But that was not what I was trying to do. especially after all the time that it took to collage this sardine tin. I was not about to bring it into Photoshop and just give myself a headache trying to figure out how to, I don't know, like make collage look like collage digitally. I am brand new to collaging. I don't need to learn how to do that yet. Let's get good at the traditional version first. And so I kind of was just trying to take it really slow. You can see I brought out my X-Acto knife because scissors just were not doing it. Now, I know that I could use like thinner papers, like construction paper, or even just normal copy paper and paint on it. I would just had this watercolor paper laying around, and I do actually like the thickness and the like different textures that I got physically, like the physical textures that I can kind of run my fingers across it. And there's lots of height variation between what I put down on the page, I suppose. And so I'm actually happy I used the thick paper, even though it was a pain in the ass to cut. I actually created this collage directly after I got my new supplies. So you'll notice my X-Acto knife is from my Blick art haul, and the glue stick is the same way. I don't think I spray this with fixative, but I guess I could have. But yeah, I got both of those things during my art haul, and I specifically went with the glue stick and the X-Acto knife and pan pastels and the different pastels I got with this in mind, because I knew that I wanted to try and experiment with some collaging. I'm not 100% sold on the glue stick. Like, it's easy and it was like $5, so it's cheap. I have used like, there's this shit from Elmer's glue. It's called like something cement, rubber cement, I think. And I hate it, okay? It's sticky, it gets everywhere. The brush that that it comes with, because it basically is like nail polish if you've never used it before. So like the brush is attached to the lid, at least on the one that I got anyways. And I fucking despised that brush. It would get gloopy, the fucking rubber cement would dry on it, and then it would get even gloopier, and it wouldn't close properly because the lid was super cheap. And so I had a very negative experience with rubber cement. I don't know anything, however, about Mod Podge, so if any of you do, feel free to let me know, because I've heard of it, and I know that it's for like scrapbooking and stuff, so I imagine it would be a successful thing to use in collaging. But for now, I have my trusty little glue stick. He's not perfect, even like touching the sardines right now in front of me. There are pieces like sticking up off of it, so I would definitely want to use a more professional glue if I was going to create this and sell it to somebody. But you know, for like just to like pause real quick, I would like to mention that there were two robins sitting on my window, and if they come back, I'll get a video so I can insert it. I actually think they're around here. And they were just fighting over a worm that one of them brought up to my roof, and I just think that's really funny, and I needed to share that. But if you haven't seen my art haul video, please feel free to check it out because I really liked it, and it actually got a lot of traction on YouTube. There's like over 1,700 of you now, and that's pretty cool. I gained like 150 subscribers from that video, so if you're one of them, hi! I'm really happy to have you here, and I'm very excited to continue to grow my channel. I just opened an Etsy shop, so if any of you would want to support me in that way, I'm really proud of the stuff that I have up there, and nobody's bought anything from it yet, at least as of recording this video, which is okay, but I'm excited, and I would like people to want to own my art, I suppose. And so yeah, check out that video, and I believe, yeah, after way before this one is being posted, I've posted my 2 videos about my Etsy shop, so check those out too if you want. So I kind of already brought it up and mentioned it a little bit, but I absolutely love how, like, tactile this medium is, I suppose, if you want to, like, call it that. Like, the tactility of being able to cut out the individual pieces. Like, I thought I would be gritting my teeth the whole time I was doing this, because it would just be so difficult to get the tiny pieces. And I didn't do a fantastic job. Like, the little, like, curved spiral piece that you guys will see I'll add to the end of the, like, part of the tin that's being curled, like, that's not perfect. It has problems, but I actually had a lot of fun. It was not a frustrating process. Sometimes it was hard. I obviously like to wear like fake nails and things, and it got a little tricky with those at times, but thankfully in this video I'm wearing some pretty short ones for what I normally like to wear. So that did help a lot, and honestly sometimes it just feels like, I don't know, like there's this another version of gravity trying to pull the paper in a different way once I have the glue on it. It's like it doesn't want to listen to me once I've put glue on it, which is total bullshit. But yeah, so you can kind of see I'm just like layering these different pieces on top of each other, and I just think it's so cool to be able to physically interact with a piece of art that I've created. It's one of my favorite things about like the stickers I made, because I'm like, holy shit, I'm holding a sticker in my hand. Same thing with like an art print, because specifically the print I have in my shop is a digital, like from a digital piece, or at least a half digital piece. So it was just kind of like mind blowing to hold them in my hands and have them. And so this is very similar, where it's like, holy shit, this exists now. And it's not just on a page, it's like I can run my fingers across it and feel it. And there's this sense of just like, I don't know, this sense of, wow, I've created this thing that I don't necessarily get a ton in my sketchbooks or traditional paintings or anything like that. And so this was like really encouraging and exciting because of that tactile nature and the fact that like all of these pieces I was individually creating and then piecing together to create a whole, which is so different than just normal painting. I just thought it was really cool and like a fun experience, because it literally felt like I was experiencing another form of art. Like there was this sensorial, I think that's a word, sensorial nature to the act of like cutting the pieces of paper and then deciding which ones I wanted to use. And even when I was layering the different textures of the paper, like you saw at the beginning of the video, and the different ways that I was trying to sort of render the textures, I suppose you could say, to create the effect that I wanted, there was so much that went into this tiny little sardine tin. And I think it's cool that all of those bits and pieces are represented through the like feeling of running my fingers across this, and I can just, each individual piece I feel under my fingertips. That's kind of wild. And I do want to clarify that I understand tactility can mean multiple things. So not only can it be the physical texture, but it can be the perception of texture that people depict in their artwork. So for example, like if you're painting a tree and you are adding that bark texture to the roots, but maybe you're just using acrylics or even a thinner medium like watercolor, you can still give the idea or the impression of tactility in that piece. But what was really cool is that this was physical tactility, which you get a little bit of with the heavier mediums like acrylics and acrylic wash. If you use enough of it, you can get kind of a cool interactive texture. But with these collage pieces, because I have done another one, which I'll also be making a video about eventually, with these collage pieces, it's kind of cool because it adds that other sense of perception, I guess. Like you can feel the art, which isn't necessarily something that I would say I normally get to experience in my art. So that's pretty cool. Prepping for this video a little bit, I found this article by Art Browsers, which super cool, interesting little website. And in this article, it was talking about art and tactility and how, which is funny because I was thinking about this in the back of my mind while I was creating this voiceover, how like the Impressionists set this unprecedented sort of depiction of the world through the sensation, or I guess the implied sensation of their work. So like, you know, Impressionists are mainly known for their sort of thick, heavy, textured brush strokes. And that played a huge part in sort of like the emotions that were evoked when looking at the piece. And it's sort of this idea of like making someone want to touch and physically interact with your piece, and how that implied tactility can actually be tied to a lot of like emotional responses. And then the article also furthers this by explaining that like ASMR is like one of the best examples of how we can vicariously experience texture through our vision, and how the Impressionists sort of benchmarked that as their whole thing. Which, if you've been watching me for a while, you know that I love like impressionistic paintings. I feel like that time period of art is incredibly inspiring, and it's been really cool to find myself sort of inching closer and closer to that type of art, or that style of art. Because I've always loved it for so long, and I just never thought that I was a heavy-bodied medium kind of person. Like, I wasn't sure that that was the kind of stuff that I wanted to use, and lo and behold, I have a part of my wall dedicated to the acrylics that I've started collecting, which is just kind of insane. But there was something about, specifically in this sketchbook, something about the like physical nature of the acrylics that I was really enjoying. And at first it was just like the implied texture that I thought was really interesting and really cool. And as I continued using the acrylics, I have pushed that further and further by like having really chunky, thick brush strokes. And then the pastels that I use actually do something similar, where like I've been slowly inching my way towards using pastels. And now I'm collaging and sort of combining a lot of those thicker mediums, the pastels, the pan pastels, oil pastels, acrylic gouache, acrylics. Hell, I just got some acrylic paint markers, you know, like this is crazy. I never thought I would be here experimenting so much with the mediums in my art. I found watercolor and I thought that was it. I was done. And lo and behold, it's actually the medium that I use the least right now. I will say though, other than like Copic markers, watercolors still have a chokehold on like color selection. They have the most interesting, unique pigments, and the granulation and texture you can get from granulation is actually really cool. I used a little bit of it in this piece here, in this collage piece, to just kind of add that sort of grainy, I guess you could say, kind of fuzzy texture. I wanted the sardine can to look a little old, I suppose, a little beaten and worn down. I have a suspicion that I will be using my watercolors more and more as I continue to push myself with collaging. I also wanted to mention in the same article, the what was it called? Art Browsers article by Michelle Costanza. They also mentioned this really interesting thing that's been happening in different museums across the world, where there are actually physical interactive exhibits specifically for people who are blind to experience art. And I think that that's kind of wild, right? Because this is literally a visual medium. In schools and things, it's called the visual arts, and yet there are people who can experience this form of art through touch and sensorially through more than just their eyes, because they may not have the ability to see this art, but they can still enjoy it in a completely different way. And collaging here and doing this and creating this project sort of touched on this new curiosity for me of experiencing the tactility of art. And you can see here in the video, I'm adding those final touches with my different, oh my goodness, what is it called? Like Copic marker, ink liners and things, and I added a little bit of line work, a little bit of extra texture with acrylics, and that was, you know, that was it. That was the end. I glued it to the page and I finished my first collaged piece. Thank you guys so much for sticking around until the end. You know the drill. If you have stuck around to the end, feel free to do the YouTube things like comment and subscribe. If you don't want to comment algorithm, because it tells the internet, or rather YouTube, that this is a part of the internet that you'd like to be on, and hopefully I'll get to talk to you guys in the next video. Bye!